Hey guys, Kellen back with Inside Out Precision, and today we are going to talk about sights. So there's a lot of different sights on the market, lots of different styles, anything from your standard fixed 3 or 5 pin sight to your single pin mover sights or slider sights they call them, your multiple pin mover sights, and then some kind of hybrids that have just started coming out that are pretty darn cool as well. So we're gonna go over starting with your most just basic fixed pin sight. So this little one is made by Trophy Ridge. This is one that I think it comes in right around like 45, 50 bucks. Really basic sight. You know, you're gonna have this actually has 4 fixed pins there. So most guys are gonna set that, 20, 30, 40, 50. A fixed pin sight, generally speaking, barring changing your arrow setup or poundage or something like that, once you get your pins set, you're pretty much not gonna touch it. Unless, like I said, you change arrow weight or you up your poundage or something like that. But they're kind of a set it and forget it type sight, if you will. So they're nice because they're pretty bare bones. Not a lot of moving parts, not a lot that can go wrong on them. But you're not going to get quite the precision adjustment out of them. And if you want to shoot, let's say, if I had this set at 20, 30, 40, 50, if I wanted to shoot 70 yards, I'm not going to be moving anything to do that. I would just do what's called stacking pins, which is basically, putting my furthest pin on it and then stacking up to a higher pin to achieve the yardage that I want. So for guys that like to practice at a really, stretched out range, let's say 80, 85, 100 yards, you're not going to get quite the amount of precision out of this that you will with a movable sight. And we'll get into that here in a minute. But fixed pin sights come in a lot of different, I wouldn't say qualities, but a lot of different features. So this one is just your standard adjustment. You've got your Allen head here and one in here to move my gang adjustment up and down, and then the pins adjust individually with the little Allen head right there. So once I get my top pin set, if I was to shoot low at 30 yards, I would just move that pin down. Great little sights, very functional. They got a good fiber optic on them, but not a lot of bells and whistles. So the next kind of step up from there, this is still a fixed 5-pin sight, but it's much more adjustable and it's much more precise in those adjustments. So this one is made by Excel. This is it's a 5 fixed pin sight, so most guys are going to set that either 20 through 60 yards or maybe 30 to 70 yards, depending on the speed your bow's shooting. But where this one kind of sets itself apart from the Trophy Ridge we just looked at is that it has all micro adjustable adjustments here. So without a tool, I don't even need an Allen wrench. I can loosen that, and then for my windage here, you can hear those positive clicks. Each one of those clicks is going to move my point of impact to 20 yards, like maybe 1/8 of an inch. So I can really, really fine tune my adjustment on this without just trying to tap my sight over one way or the other. It has the same adjustment for its vertical bar here, so I loosen that. And then this will run my gang adjustment up and down for getting that first pin set. And then this one even takes it a step further and has the micro adjustable pins. So like on that Trophy Ridge, if I wanted to move one of these pins, I just loosen it with the Allen and slide it up and down. With this sight, I actually loosen the pin I want to move, and then it's got a knob on the bottom here that when I turn it will run that individual pin up and down just a tiny little bit. So let's say I'm shooting at 60 yards and I'm 1.5 inches high. It's really hard to slide a pin a small enough amount without overcorrecting on a sight like this. Whereas with this Excel, I can just loosen that pin, give it click, 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 and it's gonna bring those arrows right into where I wanna hit. So really a highly adjustable sight. Excel they've got a great quality to their stuff, a great company to work with. If anything ever does go wrong, which is very rare, they cover it, no questions asked. And really for a fixed 5-pin, it's kind of got, all the bells and whistles on it. It's got your second and third axis adjustment, which is really important especially if you're hunting, out of a tree stand, you're shooting, downhill a lot, or like out west here. Usually, very rarely are you going to be anywhere flat. You're almost always going to be shooting up, downhill, side hill. And the third axis adjustment, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is how the sight sits square to the bow. So if I was looking down on the bow, let's say this is the bow and here's my sight sticking out from it. the third axis is how that sight sits this way relative to when my bow is square. So if my third axis is out a little bit like this, so I'm shooting flat, it's not that big of a deal. It's you know, I'm not gonna see a false bubble if it's flat. But then when I go uphill, let's say I'm aiming uphill, if that third axis is out, so now it's gonna show me a high side, and I'm gonna false bubble my bow to get that bubble level again, and I'm going to shoot right or left depending on which way the side hill is facing. So a lot of the higher end sights, you know, once you get over that 150, 160 mark in dollar amount, are going to have that third axis adjustment. And I think it's really a really good thing to spend a little bit of extra money on. It certainly will increase your accuracy, and just, you know, for a hunting scenario, you hate to miss an animal or have a bad hit just because your third axis wasn't on. So this is a really cool sight. It's got a great fiber guard here. So I've got a lot of fiber optic catching light, and it's all protected by the little guard here. So it's going to be really nice and bright even in low light conditions. And I'm not going to worry about, you know, getting a stick or some brush in there and breaking my fibers. So that's a great option for a fixed 5-pin. There's a lot of sights similar to this. Spot Hog makes a great one. Black Gold makes a great one. Fuse makes some good ones. So check that out if you still want a fixed 5-pin, but you have the micro adjustability of some of the sights we're going to get into in a minute here. So kind of your next step up, and these are becoming more and more popular now, are what you call a movable or a slider sight. So this particular one has just a single pin here. And this takes a lot of inspiration out of your classic slider sights for like a freestyle setup, where, you know, guys that are shooting competitively, they have the scope and this either dot or just the single pin. And, you know, for every target that I come up to, depending on the distance, I'm going to move this sight up and down. So if it's 34 yards, I'm not going to gap shoot between my 30 and 40 yard pin. I'm going to run this sight to exactly 34 and then aim right at what I'm trying to hit. So it's nice in terms of precision, because I'm not trying to guess, you know, where I'm trying to gap between two pins. I'm going to just, as long as my sight tape is on, you know, I'm going to run this right to whatever yardage I want and just aim right at what I want to hit. So for hunting, it can be a little bit of a gamble to run a single pin, just because if I'm out there and, you know, I'm walking along and I see a deer looking at me at 50 yards and my sight is set at 20, he might not stand there long enough for me to range him, you know, run my sight down, draw back and shoot him. Whereas with a 5-pin sight, you know, I could just kind of guess, oh, he looks about 50 yards, and I'm going to draw back and I'm going to have a pin already set for that. So, you know, some guys don't run one for that reason, even though they like the adjustability of it. They want to have more of a working range. But one thing it does give you is a very, very clear sight picture. So with that single pin there, you can see on my hand, I don't have a lot of different pins. A lot of the 5-pins are going to have, you know, 2 green pins, 2 red pins, and then maybe a yellow pin. And in the heat of the moment, it's pretty easy to get mixed up. You think you're putting your 30-yard pin on them, and you're actually putting your 50-yard pin on an animal, and you shoot over them or under them. So mispinning is not an option with a single pin like that. You know, whatever that pin is set to on your sight tape is where it's going to hit. So a lot of guys will just walk around with this set at like 30 or 35 yards, and they've shot enough at home to know that if an animal's 20 yards, they're going to aim X amount of inches low. If it's 40 or 45 yards, they're going to aim X amount of inches high if they don't have the time to range it and set it exactly where it is, to what the yardage is. So again, highly adjustable. It's got all micro adjustability here in the housing. So I can, you know, micro adjust my windage, micro adjust my elevation. And then on the side here, I've got this little locking mechanism. And so I can lock and unlock this, and that's going to give me the ability to run that sight up and down to the different yardages. So really cool sight by Black Gold. This is the Ascent Verdict. This has the 4-inch dovetail on it. You can get them with a longer dovetail if you'd like. That way you can kind of run it in and out and really get this housing to sit inside your peep sight just perfectly, to where there's not too much daylight around it, or you know, it's not filling up your peep sight too much. So really cool sight by Black Gold there. The next one I've got here, and this is probably one of the more popular sights we have, or at least popular styles. So this is a movable sight, just like that black gold. This one's actually made by Fuse. This is called the Flywheel. And while it has the ability to run up and down here on the side, you know, I've got the wheel that can run it up and down. It's also got 5 fixed pins. So it gives me that working range of a fixed pin, so let's say 20 through 60. But if I want to go practice at 80 or 90, you can, with the sight tape, you calibrate this so the bottom pin is what we call the floater. So let's say I want to go, I've got my, you know, whenever all my pins are zeroed, it's 20 through 60. I want to go shoot 80. I just unlock it right here, run this down to where my indicator here would be on my 80-yard mark, and I would shoot the bottom pin. Now, once I move those pins from the zeroed position, the top pins more or less become obsolete because those gaps between them are not going to stay consistent the further down I run on my sight tape. So it's really important if you do shoot one of these and you're out shooting at 80 or 90 yards, that when you're done shooting, you run this indicator back up to where all your pins are zeroed again at either, you know, whatever you set them at, 20 through 60 or 30 through 70. Because if I don't do that and I just put my bow back in its case and, you know, take it out to go hunting a week later and my sight is still down here where my bottom pin is at 90, now my top pin is going to be shooting more like 50 or 60. So if something walks out at 20 yards, I draw back thinking it's a chip shot and put my 20-yard pin on him. I'm going to shoot 8 feet over his back and feel like a huge dummy when I realize I didn't zero these pins back out. So just takes a little more, you know, heads up on the shooter's part to make sure that you get those pins zeroed back out. But a really good sight because you get the precision of a single pin mover, yet you still have the working range of a fixed 5-pin sight. So that's been a really, really popular one. Most companies, you can get it in like a 3-pin, 4-pin, 5-pin. This particular one is a 5. Black Gold makes this same exact sight, but with a 3-pin head or a 4-pin head. And I think it's a really good option because you kind of get the best of both worlds there. I like this Fuse one because it's really compact. They're not getting a bunch of weight way out away from your bow. Spot Hog makes a bunch of really great ones too, like the Fast Eddie XL, the Hogfather, and they all have this same concept of, you know, a movable floater pin, or excuse me, movable body to where, you know, the bottom pin becomes my floater, but still have the working range. So that's a really, really popular setup. The next sight, and I think I'm going to put one of these on my Traverse when it gets in. This sight's made by Option Archery, and it's a killer sight because it takes the precision again of a single pin with the convenience of having a fixed 5-pin. And what I can actually do on this sight is just I can flip so that it's got this little magnetic window here that flips out, and I can make it just a true single pin. And on this sight, the pin itself is the only thing that moves up and down. So when, let's say I want to go shoot 90 yards, I can just move that single pin down to 90 and my fixed pins never move. So it alleviates the potential for what I was just talking about with the flywheel here of moving your sight down to shoot further distance and then forgetting to reset it and having your, you know, all your other pins not be anywhere close to what they should be. So most guys, this is a 4 fixed pin with the 5th pin as the floater. You can get these in, you know, a 3-pin, 4-pin, 5-pin, all the way up to an 8-pin. This actually has the 8-pin guard on it because the smaller guard is just circular and you don't get quite as much range for that floater pin. So by getting that larger guard on it, a guy's gonna be able to get more range out of his sight, allowing him to shoot out to 95, 100, 120. That's all gonna depend on a lot of things from your peep height to your arrow weight, draw length. All that is gonna factor into how much range you're going to get out of a sight. But at least by getting that bigger guard on there, you're gonna give yourself the most that you can. All micro adjustable. Again, it's got a great 2nd and 3rd axis adjustment on it. It's really easy from a bow technician standpoint to set. And you know, if you're hunting in an area, let's say a water hole or out of a tree stand where you know those deer are going to be walking by on the same trail, lots of guys will flip those pins out of the way. They'll have their single pin, you know, set. Let's say it's, you know, 30 yards. They'll have that single pin set there, and usually you're going to have time to range it, dial this right to what you want, and then just aim right where you want to hit. So if something, again, if it's, 46 yards rather than trying to gap shoot between my 40 and 50. I'm just going to set this to 46 and aim right at it. Conversely, it has the ability to close that window. Boom. Now I've got my fixed pins back. Chances are I'm going to have that 20 through 50, run my floater down to the 60 position, and now I've got a fixed 5-pin sight that if I need to get on an animal quickly, I have the ability to, and I'm going to have just those fixed pins there, so a little faster to acquire your target. Really, really cool sight. It's not horribly heavy. It's really well made, all made in the USA. Just a really cool kind of combination of a slider and a fixed pin. So we've been selling more and more and more of these. They're definitely on the upper end of the price range. I think we sell this 5-pin for $370. But most of these sights, these multiple pin movers are going to be between that, $285 and $350 mark, just depending on which company you're going with. So you are going to spend a little bit more money on them, but you're going to get a lot of sight for the money. So we've really, really been impressed with these. Hopefully this gives you a little bit better idea of what the different sights are out there. Hopefully one of these is going to fit the bill for what you're looking to do. If you have any questions on any of the ones that we sell, please feel free to comment. You can go to thebowrack.com, and all of these are for sale on our website. And I would recommend, taking it to a pro shop when you get it and having them set the 2nd and 3rd axis. It's really hard to do at home if you don't have the right equipment, especially the 3rd axis. And you're not going to get you're not going to reap the benefits of a sight like this if you don't set that 2nd and 3rd axis. You're not going to get all the precision out of it that it's capable of if you don't take the time to get that stuff set. So again, stop by your local pro shop, come in and see us if you get it from us, and we'll make sure you're rolling there. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Remember, precision is a decision.